Hi, in this video I want to talk about projections of value and why that's important to make a distinction between our projections of value and the real value in the world, which I would argue the real value in this world is the suffering, the sentient experience as a whole, and why it's important to have a good sentient experience as opposed to a bad sentient experience, and there are distinctions, and usually the things that make us feel good are projections of value, and that's the distinction I want to make, and why these projections of value are obviously distinct from the real value in this world, which is obviously a state, a sentient state, a good state, and the distinctions between the good states and the bad states. And the good states that we usually experience are obviously relative to these bad states that we experience. This relative, when I say relative, it's you go back, and obviously you're going back forward, and this experience, the negative experience that you experience, is a real experience. Why this relative experience compared to these negative experiences you had, it can only go on a relative scale. So say something didn't go good for you, and then you experience something good. So based on how your projections of value, how good that good thing is how far it goes up on the scale, and makes you reach this obviously this peak, as opposed say like a zero. This peak, it's relative to basically how your projections of value based on that good thing that makes you feel good against that bad thing that you were just at. And maybe sometimes the good thing is below the bad thing, I would say. I don't know. Not necessarily. But the good thing isn't always a good thing entirely and wholly. But it's a matter of the state of mind and reaction to these good and bad things that you experience. So these projections of value, say like a person likes some kind of sport or some kind of activity or hobby they enjoy doing. So they enjoy doing these hobbies and these activities, and a projection of value means that this feeling, this obviously because it's a zero-sum game, that's what makes it a zero-sum game. That's one of the aspects that makes it a zero-sum game. Aside from the fact that you need a deprivation first, or some kind of pain, and you need some kind of tension to build up that kind of pain, so that you satisfy the pain or the deprivation that you experience. And so this projection of value is based off of personal experiences and biases, how a person grew up, what they grew up around, all sorts of things, how biases they have and innately in their mind, and understandings and reactions of the biases that they have. And these biases obviously have a projection of value. These projections, I like this, I like that, I like sports, I like this, I like doing any number of things. And these projections of value are obviously projections of value because it's coming from inside your state of mind. It's coming in from inside your head. It's delusions of something that has importance, when these projections of value are obviously subjective between each individual person. Obviously, this person likes this person likes this, and that's what makes it a projection of value. Something that I want to address in this video is obviously, well, if it's all subjective, then the pain's subjective as well. Oh, this person experiences more pain or less pain. This person reacts differently to having a nail shoved in their foot, or having their knee, busting their knee backwards or something, or any number of things like that. So basically how you address this is, it doesn't matter. It's the pain, it's the suffering that matters. It's the word, it's the understanding of suffering. Find something that makes them suffer. Find something that makes them suffer. There's a scale of suffering. There's an understanding of suffering. It's something that we can all relate to and understand. Why? Well, obviously, we can all understand a satisfaction and understand relieving of these negative feelings. We can obviously understand these feelings and recognize that it's a zero-sum game, and when obviously the satisfaction is prefaced upon the idea that we're satisfying something that was negative to begin with. So when we're satisfying, it's a satisfaction, it's a good state. We're obviously going in the or positive direction, and just because it's a scale, just because since we're going down, we have to go up. The fact that you have to go down first, sort of like any number of moves, it's moving back and forth, the vibrations. That's what life is. That's how the physics work as well. It's a matter of moving back, the fact that you need to go back first before you can go forward. That's what makes it different than just being back and forward. Just because there's a scale of down and up, the fact that you need to go down first makes the scale more distinctive. That's why it makes sense that it's a negative-sum game. That's how you can describe it when describing this kind of this kind of subject. When you're talking about it, you need to go down before you go up. And depending on how far down you go, the more satisfying it is to go up. The satisfaction obviously isn't one-to-one. You're not going to completely, necessarily all the time, compensate from the negative that you experience by going up, because it's not, the negative is always something that is, the game is prefaced on the negative, and that's the negative that we're always going to experience. So the pain thing, obviously, it's all relative. No, it's not relative. The fact that you need to go down to go up, obviously, is one thing. And find something that's painful. It's an idea we can all understand. And how bad can it get for some people? How bad can it get in general? How bad can it get? And obviously, that's something individually we have to find. Not necessarily have to find out. Obviously, there's ways to find out. And obviously, there's experiments going on. We're obviously testing the will and the ability, not necessarily the ability, but the survivability of certain creatures, but that's besides the point. Maybe an entirely different video. So the point is find something that hurts them. It's the pain that matters, not the specific event. We're talking about the suffering and the pain in general, not the thing that causes the suffering. Just because a person didn't feel anything stepping on a nail and getting tetanus, it doesn't mean that they're not going to find something that hurts them. And if the person doesn't find anything that hurts them, say hypothetically speaking, there's a person out there that doesn't find anything painful, well, what's the point in being alive? That's the thing. That's the game. That's the preface of the game. The quality of the game is based off the negatives creating the positives. And that's obviously the distinction. The negatives need to happen first before the positives can happen. And the fact that it's still that you're going up, the fact that there's a positive is that the positive has to come from a negative, no matter what. And that's how the distinction you can make when arguing against someone that obviously wants to make the distinction that there's still an up and a down, but you need to have the up and down thing. You're obviously moving between ups and downs. To go up, you have to go up. You obviously had to have been in a lesser state to go up. Obviously, when you're down, you obviously had to have gone from a comfortable state, and that's the distinction. A comfortable state is usually the satisfaction that you get, being completely satisfied. Imagine just eating a meal, just satisfying your sexual satisfaction, just satisfying any number of things. You feel completely fine. You feel completely satisfied. Obviously, there's always things malingering in the back of our minds, but there's obviously that's not something that we can always satisfy. The problem of life is life is problem. The problem of life is constantly having problems, but that's the only thing that makes life worth living, is having these problems, and there's nothing we can do about it. The more frustrated you are, the more satisfying it is usually to feel this relief of being satisfied. But the satisfaction that you gain and the end product, the end satisfaction, and the process of satisfying yourself isn't always compensation. It's just compensating, possibly more than likely more than if it were a deprivation or tension. So that's obviously something that's important as well. And I want to complete the idea before I keep changing the subject, back to the idea of finding someone that has pain. Obviously, pain is something, and satisfaction are obviously something that we can all understand. Obviously, it's just a matter of how we get to that satisfaction. But once we're all satisfied, the comfortable state that we can all necessarily relate to is something that we can all understand and we can relate to. Being satisfied, having a full stomach, having fully satisfied whatever desires you may have, sexual or non-sexual or whatever it is. Obviously, life is prefaced on this sexual thing, reproducing and such. Yes, you need to find something that will make this person obviously unsatisfied, or find this person, I wouldn't say unsatisfied, but suffer. There's obviously a suffering that we're all going to experience no matter what. There's nothing that you can do. Just find someone's pain, and obviously if there is no pain, what's the point in living if there's no pain? Because you're not feeling anything, and not feeling anything like depression or something is almost as bad as having these really bad feelings. And obviously I'm not going to I'm not going to belittle feelings, physical feelings. I'm just saying, even though if you're not feeling anything, say you're not feeling, first of all, you can't not feel anything, you're going to be dead, but not feeling anything, say like you're depressed, obviously that's something that's obviously a negative feeling, because we need we need this balancing out of positive and negative to make our satisfaction worthwhile, make this game worth living. And the very thing that makes this game not worth living is the very same thing that makes this game worth living. The pain and the suffering, and the greater the pain and the suffering makes this game worth living, but the pain and the suffering that you have to impose and experience obviously makes the game not worth living, especially when you're in the moment of experiencing that deprivation and that pain and that tension. So obviously that's something that's obviously a negative thing. Obviously the game is prefaced on negative. Everyone experiences negatives. It doesn't matter. You need the positive and the negative. To get to a higher positive, you obviously have to be on a further negative. And to be on a further negative, you obviously have to be on a higher positive. And it's the scale of going back and forth. And that explains a negative-sum game in and of itself, no matter what. And there's nothing you could do about it to explain it away. It's that way no matter what. And there's nothing you could do about it. That's the game. That's the reality we live in. The mechanisms of this reality we live in can't work any other way, and I would say that there's no other way that this can work, regardless of whatever reality you want to consider in your mind. The reality that we have, and the fact that you can't think of anything beyond that. You can only think of the elimination of some kind of pain. You can't eliminate the whole idea of pain and suffering, the good and the bad. You can't eliminate the discrepancy, the dichotomy. It's going to be good or bad, and that's the only thing we can live off. And you need the bad to get the good. And to be in the good to have the bad, and the good is only taking away of the bad. And obviously, it's a scale of going up and down. You need to be up and down, up and down, up, and it's just a matter of a relative state based on your projections. Back to the original point I was making. These projections of value, and that's usually how we get to our positives, is by these projections of value of satisfying these arbitrary things that we experience on a day-to-day basis. Oh, I'm watching the sports game on television after work or something, so you're satisfying some deprivation you had and your obsession that you created, and the deprivation was watching the football game or whatever it is after work, and you're watching and you're satisfying some kind of emptiness, boredom, something. Why else would you be watching it? It doesn't matter if you necessarily recognize the feeling you're experiencing. You're experiencing something and you're feeling some kind of void no matter what, and that's the game that we're experiencing no matter what we're doing. So projections of value are obviously biases, things that the positives that we gain are projections of value. What you find attractive is a possession of value, a projection of value. And I want to go on to this one other subject real quick about sexual satisfaction. The projection of value is the thing that you're having sex with, or the thing that sexually satisfies you. It's in and of yourself. The satisfaction is coming out of you. The projection of value, where you experience that, where you vicariously experience that satisfaction, is the thing that you're looking at or touching or doing and experiencing, the thing that you find appealing, that's satisfying. So when you're having say next time you have an orgasm, imagine. The next time you satisfy yourself or whatever, imagine no one's there, and see how much you feel that satisfaction. Then don't imagine anything, and satisfy yourself in some way, and see if it means something, at least sexually. I'm almost saying, like, masturbate and imagine nothing, and see if the orgasm feels exactly the same way if you're not imagining something outside of yourself, or imagining something. And seeing how much that satisfies you then. I don't think it's going to satisfy you as much. And the projection is the person that you're finding satisfying. The orgasm or whatever satisfaction you're experiencing isn't coming off, but it's vicarious. It's a vicarious relationship, I guess you can describe it as, experiencing it through that person, as opposed to that person being the root cause of your satisfaction. A satisfaction, the point I'm making, I don't want to contradict myself, I'm trying my best not to lose track, is that your satisfaction comes from yourself, the feeling, but it's from something that's outside of yourself. The thing that you find attractive, the mate that you find attractive is from outside of yourself, and it's not the person that's satisfying you, it's you're satisfying you in your state of mind. The thing that you're projecting onto that person, the projection of value you have onto that person, that's outside of yourself, based on your own satisfaction in and of yourself, and that's all we're experiencing. Yes, the projection of value is obviously how we obviously obtain some kind of satisfaction in our positive states of mind, and negative and positive is something that we can all relate to, no matter the person or no matter what causes pain or not. And if there's no pain, what's the point in living? But that's not possible, because that's not the game we're playing, unless you are unconscious. Otherwise, there's no way you're not feeling anything. You're obviously feeling something all the time, no matter what. So there's nothing. I think that's all. I covered everything. Yes, I covered all that, and projections of value, and Obviously, everyone feels some kind of pain, and it's something we can all relate to, and it doesn't matter what causes the pain, it's the pain in and of itself. But obviously, there's so many idiosyncrasies that the amount of pain that we can experience, almost the distinctions between pain can obviously become important, because considering there's so many ways you can hurt someone, slicing, burning, corroding, all sorts of things. So besides the point, before I go on and on, I appreciate it, and till next time, bye.